Are you still there, Peter?
I am here.
Okay. Do you see the slide that was there still?
I most certainly do.
And you're up at the top?
I'm up at the top, yes.
Up at the top. Perfect. Well, good afternoon, folks. Thank you for joining us today. This is Patty Slusher. I'm the program director for America's Newspapers. And I believe this is 14th in our series of webinars that we have done just since March 13th. And I thank all of you very much for participating. I hope they've been helpful to you. We are just a few away from helping 6,000 newspaper employees across the country with these webinars. So I hope they've been good for you. I hope you are finding them of value. If there are other topics or subjects that you'd like us to touch on and present to you, we're happy to do that. Just shoot me an email, and we'll see what we can do. But so today with us, we have Peter Lamb, and I know many of you are customers possibly of Peter's. He's seen a few of you on the call already. We'll be on the webinar for about an hour. I know many of you know this because you're repeat webinar folks. You will be muted on the call, but Peter would love to entertain your questions, and you can type them in on the webinar platform. Just send in your questions, and Peter and I will work together to answer those for you. Peter, do you want to save our questions to the end, or would you like to do them during the webinar?
I think I prefer at the end, Patty, if it works. So
okay, yep, that's what we've been doing, and it works out pretty good. So folks, that'll give you, a lot of time during the webinar to go ahead and send in the questions. And Peter, I also have a few other questions that have been sent to me in advance, and we'll get to those as well. The number one question I get asked is, are you going to get a recording or materials from this webinar? And yes, you are. We should have the recording done later today, and we will post that. You'll also get a summary of today's program. We call it the webinar takeaways. They're produced by Mark Fitzgerald here at America's Newspapers. They're a really nice kind of one-sheeter summary of all the important points that Peter will make today. So it's nice to take back and share with your fellow employees and use it while you're watching the video again, hopefully. So. Peter, I am going to turn the program over to you. If we were at a conference, I'd ask them to give you a nice round of applause. So here's a nice virtual applause for you, okay?
Thank you, Patty. I appreciate it.
Let me change to your slide. Are you seeing it now, Peter?
I most certainly am. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. You are up. Take it away.
Well, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody, from a sunny South Florida. Welcome to the next 45 minutes. If you see in front of you a slide, I will give you a test on that in a minute. But firstly, let me apologize for those of you who don't know me. I do speak very fast, and I have quite a lot to cover in a very limited amount of time. For those of you also don't know my sessions, there is always a test involved. So there will be a test in a few minutes about what you see in front of you. And then in case you're thinking TLC does not stand for tender loving care. Okay, quick little roadmap. The grading system for the test is very simple. I'll ask you to grade yourself or your company 0 to 10. 10, we're doing a great job of what Peter's suggesting. 0, we really need some help and really need to get better. My ultimate goal today, 1 or 2 nuggets that'll help you generate more revenue. 1 or 2 nuggets to get your sales team ready for the fact that businesses are opening up around the country. Where I am in Palm Beach County, we are actually 25% for restaurants. It is phase 1 started yesterday. So I know that a lot of you are actually going to go ahead and get that as well. Okay. Most of all, my goal is to give you some techniques to make your team memorable. I mean, at times like these, customers are going to come back to you if they're the most memorable. So, okay, let's talk about test number 1. TLC stands for think like the customer. If you got that right, you've heard me speak before, you know exactly what that is. Now, if you've never heard that terminology before, please write it down somewhere. If you're taking notes, congratulations. If you're not taking notes, just say it to yourself. Think like the customer. And here's test number 2. If you had to grade the top 5 businesses in the world, well, what would be there? It's probably safe to say we'd all say that Amazon is one of them. Amazon philosophy: think like the customer, start with a customer, and move backwards. I'm going to say that's actually, we'll slow down just for that. We start with the customer and move backwards. So think about every initiative you have done, your company's done in the past 2 months since we started with COVID-19. Can you grade yourself? We did a 10. That everything we did started with a customer, we moved backwards. Or did we say, we need to make some money, we need to make some revenue, we need to raise some cash, and we did it that way? So that slide you see in front of you will be up the entire next 45 minutes, because those are my 2 lessons. If you learn nothing else from me, thinking like the customer, TLR stands for think like the reader. Okay. Those are the 2 most important things of companies I currently work with that are doing well. Okay. So again, lesson number 1, go back on your and test yourself. And just for giggles, maybe what I'll do after the webinar, call a couple of you, Patty, as a list, and say, how did you grade yourself on the think like the customer? Did you grade yourself a 10, or did you give yourself a 0? All right, let's move on. When COVID-19 started right about early in March, one of my customers called me and said, Peter, got a little problem. My reps are all working from home. I'm paying them. They're telling me that none of the customers want to hear from us. What do I do? Now, we are 2 months ahead, and probably that might not be the case again. I thought, well, I didn't quite know how to answer him at the time. So I thought about it, and the next day I called him and I said, you know what? My methodology has always been the best sales managers in the world that I work with. They always remember their time as the rep. They remember what they did. They remember what they liked. They remember what they didn't like. And one of the things you always remember as a rep is that 20% of the people are always going to tell you no. They're going to say, don't talk to me. I'm not ready for you. 80% will say, come talk to me. So that's my lesson. Okay. 80% of the customers still want to hear from you. So what I did in preparation for this webinar, when Patty and Dean asked me to do this, I spend easily 50 days a year in the field with sales reps, teaching them what to say, introductory sales calls, how to get the business, all the above. So I called some of those customers and said, hey, I'm just curious. Do you want to hear from your rep right now? What do you want to hear from them? So I called 30 of them. And let me give you some informal feedback. The answer was very simple. Peter, are you crazy? Of course I want to hear from my rep. They are my trusted partner. Again, if you're taking notes, write that down. They are my trusted partner. They are my link to the outside world. I am stuck in my house, just like everybody else. They are the ones that have helped me build my business. Of course, I want to hear from them. But this is what I want you to listen very carefully if you're on with me right now. I want to hear from them, but what I want them to do is I want them to listen to me. I want them to listen to me vent. Very important. I want them to listen to me vent. Now, a lot of our reps aren't the best at listening skills. We all know that if you're a manager on the call, you're probably laughing. Yep, that's right, Peter. So we have to teach them in this particular situation, they have to listen to the customer vent. Peter, number 2, they have to give me some options how to make it better. I expect them to be my link to what's happening in other cities and other markets, make it better for me. Number 3, most importantly, I do not want them to sell me anything. Okay? I do not want to be sold. So take a look at that for a second. I do not want to be sold. I want some options, and I want them just to listen to me. All pure sales skills. So let me give you some granular advice for your reps. If you're a rep on the call, great. If you're a manager on the call, this is what you should be teaching tomorrow morning. Number 1, let's talk about your existing customers, the customers you've built a relationship with over the year that are struggling right now. If you've ever heard me speak, you know that I believe in the terminology being a detective. When you make the introductory call and you're in their office, you look around for things to talk about. You look for pictures of their family, pictures of their hobbies, what awards they have, and what books they're reading. So you can talk to them and engage them. Key word, you can engage them. This is the time to utilize information and leverage it. For example, if you've done this right, the detective phase of my training, you know the kids' names, you know probably the kids go to school, you know the spouse's name. This is where you ask the question, hey, so I'm just curious, how are Jack and Jill doing? How's Jack feel being back from college, from Ole Miss, and they're at home? That generates an easy conversation. If by chance you happen to know their birthday, I'm sure they didn't have a regular birthday, it was a drive-by, like we did for my son in Palm Beach. That's a conversation starter, but it shows them that you remember basic things they talked about and that you really care about them and their business. So we go through the personal side of it. Let me ask you a couple of questions to give and get a quick update on where you are with your business right now. Number 1, remember, when you're asking your existing customers questions, you already have the relationship. You've known them for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Some of you on this call, 10 years. You don't have to pussyfoot around with the questions. They know who you are. They know your company. They know what you stand for. Most important question. So Jack, Joe, what takes up most of your time right now? Let them vent. That's a venting question. They're going to talk about, I can't go to my store. They'll give you all kinds. Let them talk. What takes up most of the time? Number two, even though I should know this, what have you done in the past 2 months to promote your business? What have you done to generate more business? What's really working? Let them tell you what they've done outside of talking to you. Maybe they've done some radio. Maybe they've done other things in the market that you're not familiar with. Let them tell you that. Two most important questions. In the last 2 months, what are the top selling products and services you have? For example, a restaurant, they'll tell you takeout. Some will say delivery. Let them tell you what that is. Again, you're taking notes. They're telling you what's been happening for 2 months. Then, key question. In your opinion, what are the top 3 marketing challenges you have in the next 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks going forward? Let them tell you what they believe their marketing challenges are. Remember, they want to vent. Most of them are currently getting close to, and they know you. So they'll tell you maybe in a few 4-letter words exactly what's going on, okay? Those are, to me, the most important questions you can ask right now for your regular customer. Gives you some sense of what their headspace is, where they are, what they're thinking, how close they get into opening up, all the above. Joe, if I heard you correctly, what you said was boom, 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 boom. Delineate exactly what they said to you. Do you have any questions for me? They will probably say to you, do you see what else is working? What else is working in Seattle, in New York, in different parts of the world? I know you have that crazy guy, Pete, that works in Europe. What is working in Europe? They'll probably ask you that, have some answers. Then you have a choice to make as a rep. Choice number 1 is you can tell them some options you've seen that are working. I prefer choice number 2. You know what? That's a really good question. What I plan to do with this information, I'm going to go back to the office. I'm going to talk to people in the office. I know I can't go back there right now, and give this information to our team of experts and come back to you next week and give you some options of plans that are working elsewhere in the US right now. Okay. And the key word is, and tell me what we are finding that we can restage your business. If you've never heard the word restage or heard the word restage, write it down. It's a very interesting Harvard Business School word they taught me many years ago. We're not going to rebrand your business. We're not going to relaunch your business. We're going to restage it. Different types of, now you think about anything that's happening to you to change the way business gets done. I'm going to look for areas around the country where other companies have done the same thing and help you restage your business. So those are your existing customers. You and I both know that's pretty easy. Let's talk about new customers. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, businesses are opening up. Let me let that stay there for a second. Businesses are opening up as we speak, and they're going, okay, now what do I do? So really, in your particular market, you should be able to go to the chamber. You should be able to development council. There should be a list of businesses that are opening up. Let's make it more simplistic. All you have to look at the phase 1 businesses, so watch your local TV channel, and they'll tell you salons, tattoo parlors opening up. Great, I didn't know that. You know, salons opening. Find out which businesses are opening up which day, and that's where you start making your calls. Now, we all know when you're making a cold call face-to-face, you have 30 seconds to make an impression. When you're making a call like this on the phone, you have 20 seconds. And we all know that the first thing the customer is thinking is, why am I talking to this idiot? Okay, we all know that. So what can you possibly say to them in the first 20 seconds that'll make an impact and get them to go ahead and keep talking to you? So let me use some language that my client in the UK has used the past 2 months. And let's see if you can modify that, whether in New York, Chicago, wherever you are right now, modify the language to suit your needs. Good morning. My name is Peter. I'm doing a survey on behalf of the Express to determine the impact of COVID on your business and how I might help going forward. Okay. Simple. Good morning. Doing a survey, name the paper, determining what the impact of COVID is and how I might help going forward. Do you have a couple of minutes that I'm going to ask you some questions? Could you spare a couple of minutes to be to ask you some questions? Anything. That takes you exactly 15 minutes. I timed it a bunch of times. Most people are going to say absolutely. Why? They've been stuck in their homes for a long time too. They're intrigued by the survey. They're intrigued by how you might help them going forward. And again, you're not selling. You're really technically doing a survey. So if you don't like the language, find some other language that helps. That has worked gangbusters in the UK and with a couple of my clients in the US. Okay. Do you have it? I like the words. Can you spare a couple of minutes? Beautiful English words. Can you spare? Hey, of course I can spare a couple. What else do I have to do? I'm sitting home watching TV. Okay. You know people are going to say that. Right. Before I start, allow me a quick personal question. I always like to start with the personal first. I trust that you and your family are healthy and surviving the craziness. Simple. At this point, what's going to happen? They might go ape on you and talk about the craziness going on. Remember, they want to vent. You are giving them an opportunity to vent. Go past the personal conversation, move right into the business one. Same thing I said early on. What have you done the past 2 months to promote your business? They'll tell you. If nothing, you data point, data point, data. What have they done to promote their business in the past couple of months? Next one, really interesting question. Have you managed to retain your most valuable customers? And they'll say, well, yeah, I've kept a few of them. Do you mind telling me exactly who they are? What do they look like? Inside, you're getting into, remember, you didn't know this business from Adam. You're getting insight into what their customers are, who they currently look like, and what he thinks his most valuable, profitable customer is. Back to the same question, what takes up most of your time? Easy question, and they'll tell you what they take the most time. Now, top 3 marketing challenges. You want to ask that question again because you want their perspective on what their challenges are to market their business going forward in the post-COVID-19 era, okay? Number 3, top selling products. Same thing I said earlier. Now, here's one that I love to ask. And I've asked it a few times of my customers, and I challenge you, because a lot of you are going to go, Peter, I can't ask that. Ask them, okay? Is there anything special you have done in the past 2 months to really contribute and help the healthcare workers, the safety, anything you've done to contribute charity-wise to help the situation and make it better? Give them the opportunity to talk about, brag about, maybe certain of them have donated free meals. I have a lot of my customers done. Maybe they did a food drive. Let them talk about what they have done to really make it better. Remember, customers want to hear that. Okay? Any other questions for me? No. Also understand, if you have the time and you're watching your watch and you get to 4 minutes, one of my all-time favorite questions, and if you feel comfortable, say, ask them. If you don't mind my asking, what motivated you to start your business? You've given them the chance to talk about the emotion of opening the business. You just gave them the chance of talking about the emotion of what they've done to help healthcare workers and nurses and transport workers, what they have managed to do over the past 2 months. And it's also giving you insight into what they stand for. Then you say to them, any questions for me? They may or may not have any questions, okay? If they have, make sure, most of the times I've done, they said, nope, which you said 5 minutes. And at this point you say, I'm just about done, okay? If I heard you correctly, this is what you said. Summarize what they said to make sure you didn't miss anything. And usually they will add a couple more things that they wanted to say before, especially about what they did to help the environment and help the healthcare workers. Let me tell you what I'm going to do with this information. I'm going to forward this data, this information, to my team of brand experts. Keywords, brand experts. I am going to forward this information to my team of brand experts. And what we are going to do, somebody will contact you next week and give you some options in terms of what is currently working for your type of business. Okay? Listen to my tone of voice. Just went down. I'm going to take this information, forward it to my team of brand experts in our organization. Now, it doesn't really matter how big your company is. You could be 150, 200 people. You could be 10. Not the point. Okay? My terminology for what we do today as sales reps and sales managers, we are brand experts. So all the guy on the phone heard was, wow, okay, you're going to go and you've got a team of brand experts. I'm curious. I'm going to go to my team of brand experts and tell them exactly what you said to me, and somebody will call you. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Okay. What do you have here with a new customer? Number one, you really have done a very preliminary, simplistic needs analysis. Think about it. You pretty much have insight into what they've done and gives you a beautiful opportunity to follow up at some point in the future to ask more. More importantly, they are now expecting a call back from somebody else on your team to give them some options, what to do to make it better. Most importantly, you are memorable. Remember, my job today, if you're a rep, is to understand that you understand how to be more memorable on these calls. If you're a manager, you have to teach them how to make them more memorable. A call like that, they will hang up the phone and go, wow, that was interesting. Got a call from the Star Advertiser, got a call from the UT, got a tie from whatever your name of your paper is, and they didn't try to sell them anything. They just did a survey on what's doing well, and that's pretty impressive. I can't wait to hear from them. Okay, it's all about the mindset. My job is to make you memorable, and we've given them enough information to get them to talk. So I've done with TLC. Okay, we'll talk some more later about think like the customer. Let's focus on the reader for a second. If you A lot of you are probably saying, well, Peter, you should change that. You shouldn't say reader. You should say audience. Great. If you were at the session I did in Mega, we talked a lot about audience. If we're going to change it to audience, change it. We have to teach you to think like your audience. What are they thinking? Now, I want you to remember, as the publication or your websites that you have, you are their trusted partner. You are the trusted partner in your community. If you've never heard the terminology, I implore you, write it down. A local community paper, a local web, you are the trusted partner of the community. They look to you for advice. Write it down. So here's my test number 3 or 4. I've lost track. Okay. Think about the last 24 hours. I'm assuming a lot of you still watch television because you're stuck at home. A lot of you are like I am. Think about something. Think about the commercials you looked at. Let me give you a hypothesis. 5-6 weeks ago, most of the commercials that you watched still had the same crazy message they've had for the past 2-3 years. 10% of them had pivoted to really talking about what they were doing and make them more pertinent, more relevant to COVID. What you look at right now, if you watched television last night, more than 30 or 40% of the commercials have done that. They've pivoted. They have a different message. The messaging is different. So let me use some examples. Have you seen the Burger King commercial where you're staying at home because you're stuck and you're sitting on your sofa? Have you seen the Domino's commercial where their message is hiring people? Have you seen the Oscar Mayer commercial where they're donating a certain amount of money, a certain amount of hot dogs, and a certain percentage of the revenue, and they're promoting getting together for a barbecue? Have you seen the Nike commercial? Let me read it to you slowly. We know you want to play for millions, but why don't you play inside and play for the world? We know you want to play for millions. Why don't you play inside, play for the world? These are Dunkin' Donuts. We got your back. These are companies that understand what readers and the audience wants to hear is what they are currently doing to make things better. So what I did is I did a formal survey this time. It was a survey done by Harvard Business Review, second week in April. They interviewed 12,000 people around the world, 10 different countries, and asked them exactly the question we have. Do you want to hear from your brand? And let me just define quickly what the brand is. The brand for the people on this call is, do they want to hear from us? And the answer is yes, they do, but the message here is they also want to hear from your advertisers. They want to hear from the pool guy. They want to hear, but the question is, what do they want to hear? They want to hear what their brand is doing to make it better. What are they doing to contribute? What are they doing to help? Okay, that's what they want. They don't want to be sold. Again, I'm not going to pick on car dealers, but if you look at most of the car dealer commercials, they haven't changed in 3 months. A few of them have gotten smart and talked about what they're currently doing to make it better. Like I know, for example, I'm not a big Oscar Mayer fan. I don't eat that many hot dogs. But the next time I go, I will buy Oscar because I was so intrigued that they had a beautiful commercial and what they're donating a certain percentage to feed the homeless in the U.S. Beautiful thing. That's what brand messaging is all about. So that's the general what your customers want to hear from you. Your audience wants to hear that. Let's talk about specificity. You're opening up right now. Okay? I just got 3 emails this morning from my hairdresser, dentist, and a few other, saying even the massage place will open up. Your audience also needs to hear what the hours are. Number 1, very important. Number 2, what services are being offered. Number 3, but very importantly, what they are doing to make it easier. Watched one last night, a little area here in South Palm Beach where they actually have ultraviolet red light where they actually go in ahead and clean out the restaurants. Okay, if people are going to come to your store, they need to know exactly what you're doing to make it different. Let me give you another little test. My perspective on what's happening in our business right now with your customers is when you look at restaging their business, to use the word I love to use, we have to treat it like a grand opening. Let me get that to sink in for a second. Okay. You want to treat any kind of messaging like a grand opening. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if you think about it, business is not like it was 3 months ago. And essentially, it is almost like a grand opening. That is the message you want to get out there. All right. Let me summarize this area. What do I have so far? Customers want to hear from us. Yep. The readers want to hear from us. They want to hear from the brands. They want to hear from our advertisers. Yep. Messaging is key. Visualize Nike. Yep. So far, so good. So I've answered 2 of the questions on the description for the webinar today. But let me tell you where the issue is. Our customers don't know how to message. That's not what they do for a living. The doctor, the dentist, the pool place, they don't do that. That's our job. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is where we do what we do for a living. We teach them how to make it different. I'm a big believer in teaching moments. Again, terminology. If you've never heard the word teaching moment, this is a teaching moment for you to go to your advertisers and teach them how to go ahead and message differently. The message they used in early March and February is not going to work anymore. The messaging has to change. Our job is to teach them to make it better. People want to hear from them. They just want a different message. Number two, this is your opportunity as, if you're a publisher, chief revenue officer, rep, man, wherever you're on this particular webinar, it is your opportunity to brand yourself differently as your organization. Message yourself. I had a webinar a couple of weeks ago. Somebody said, this is the time to work on your collateral. Absolutely. This is the time to think about your brand. How do we change your brand as the daily paper or the weekly paper or the website or the magazine, whatever you are on the call? How do we change that to meet what the customers really want to hear from us? Is what are we currently doing? Okay. Done with customer, done with the reader. Let me move on. The last issue we talked about, quick little drink here, was talking about niches. If you've never heard the saying, make riches from niches, please write it down. Never heard the saying, make riches from niches, write it down. Look at my time, I still have a few minutes left. Okay. Think about our business where it came from in the old days. The old days we had automotive, help wanted, and we had real estate. Those were niches. That's where the big money was get made. Okay? That's changed. We have a whole bunch of different niches now. So I'm gonna run through very quickly some areas where some of my clients around the world are making money, have made money, and see how you can adapt it to your particular market. Number one, sponsorship. If you've not had any sponsorship revenue, now's the time to do it. What are you going to sponsor? Hometown heroes. We talk about the different people who work in the front line. One time it's called frontline leaders, terminology from one of my clients. Big one, businesses helping business. Okay. How do you do a sponsorship? You take a look, you think about your market, wherever you might be. What are the businesses, what are the niches that are not being affected at all by COVID? Even better, what are the niches that are making more money than they were 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, 8? And you'll come up with a few of them. Banks, credit unions, insurance companies, utility companies. Again, I don't know your market. Think about your particular market and look at those types of businesses. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when you do that exercise, the list you come up with are always going to be people we do not currently do business with today. You say that slowly. When you do the list of businesses today that are not struggling despite COVID, that are doing really, really well, that are probably making more money, they're usually business categories, business niches that we do not currently have. So what do? Simple. Go to the big utility company. I have a client in the Northeast that did that. You know what? What we're doing here is we're going to make we did a double truck with business cards of all the people in this particular market that we know that really cannot afford to advertise. A couple of restaurants, I can name a few different categories, and we'd like you to sponsor it. You know what the answer was? How much do you want? Well, business is helping business, sponsored by this utility company. Beautiful. They get the branding, they get the messaging, they get to talk about what they did to help businesses in their community. Number two, hometown heroes. Talk about that again. Frontline leaders. I can go on and on. Do you have a map either online or on your paper with all the restaurants that are open? Those can be sponsored. If you're sitting where I'm going to give you 1 minute to think. If you're sitting at home, which a lot of you should be probably, think about it. Who in your market can you approach this afternoon and talk about, we would like you to sponsor X. We would like you to sponsor something on behalf of this, on behalf of that. Number two, categories that are opening up. Nail salons by different state, by different county. Find the list. Get to be a pro in what nail salons look like. Call them, give them some creative options in terms of what they can do to get better. Now, let's talk about other research. I know that most of you, a large portion of you, were on a webinar last week, a few weeks ago, with my good friend John Marling from Pulse Research. He talked a lot about purchasing patterns. Which categories are going to be better going forward? Do you remember them? Did you take notes? Go back and do your homework. There are a bunch of them there that you need to contact. Remember what I said? Make riches from niches. Identify the niche, go after it, get a sponsor. Okay? I was watching CNN, God forbid, the other day. There was a very interesting 3-second blurb on pool builders in Connecticut. This guy was being interviewed. He said, my business is exploding. I'm 300% over last year. for the month of April and May. Why? Why? The interviewer asking, well, a lot of the people up here are not going to go to the shore, they're not going to go to the coast over the summer. They're too scared, so they're buying pools instead. Now, if I'm in Connecticut, in case you're listening, you're there, guess what? That's the kind of information I would love to have as a rep. I am going to go and chase more pool builders. There are tons of niches like that are looking right now desperately to get better. I know there's some friends of mine in San Francisco on the call, and I remember fondly making 3-4 calls on private schools. Okay, private schools, perfect time. Are they having have you done anything for the graduation? Have you sold them a graduation? Anything? You know they have money. You know the seniors are graduating. What have you done to go to that very, very, very small niche and offer something to make it better for the graduating seniors? Okay. My favorite, passion projects. If you never heard me say that because you haven't been to my session, write it down. You want to have fun with this one? Give a test to all your reps today or tomorrow and say, you know what? We know that every one of you is passionate about something. Rock climbing, exercise, cooking, fishing, hiking, rugby from the UK, rugby if you're New Zealand, cricket if you're South African or Indian. Why don't we just do this? Why don't you take some time and design for me a product or a service that we can use and utilize and leverage and launch at our organization to attack that niche? Number one, you'd be shocked what you get, because you probably don't exactly know all the passions that the different people have. I've done this a few cases with my clients recently. It's amazing when you have 20 reps and you get 20 passion projects and you give $500 to the one that you like the most. It's amazing what happens. If you are more adventurous, if you've never heard the terminology get out of jail free, give them each a get out of jail free card. Yeah, done. I looked at it. It looks good. Do it. Whether you mess it up badly, it's irrelevant. Go and chase that niche, which you know it. You're the person, you design the product, you design the service, you design the offering, you design what needs to have in line, and we're not going to hold it against you if you blow it up because you get that jail-free card. Again, if you're sitting on the call and you think that's heresy, this is the time to give your employees a get-out-of-jail-free card, because they all have something they'd like to do with the product. What am I missing? I was on a webinar last week with a bunch of guys in Europe. Most of them are not like us. They actually have portals. They have job portals, and they have automotive portals, and they have real estate. They really are big on the portal business. And the two guys that own the best job portals, one in Austria and one in Scandinavia, said the following. He said, we have so many job seekers right now in our market. And I said, that's interesting. We have the same in our markets. So I challenge you. Okay. Test number 6 for the day. What are you going to do about all those people in your market that are looking for jobs? Can you do something? Can you monetize? Can you help? What could you know? Their portals are good. They have a little area where they can go and they can put their resume on there and they can get access to employees. What are you going to do if you're sitting in Darien, Connecticut? Or I always say Tupelo, Mississippi. I don't know where you are. What are you going to do as a media organization to help those people looking for jobs? After all, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anything we can do, we can match job seekers to people that have jobs. We are great at doing that. Job seekers. Okay, let me see, look at my notes here. Okay. Let me slow down. I have one more topic to cover before I wrap up. If you were at the conference in Mega, usually I would say raise your hand. I can't see your hands. And if you happen to sit on a session done by Julia Campbell from LMA, maybe you were blown away like I was. I'm going to slow down and tell you why I was blown away. The topic was branded content. If you know what branded content is and how it works, congratulations. If you don't know what branded content is, that's your 7th test for the day. Go find out. But let me tell you what impressed me the most about that particular seminar, that particular session. I sat in the back of the room and I heard Amber Aldrich from the Seattle Times talk, and she said this. Yep, we are big believers in branded content. Our first project was at Microsoft, and they gave us $250,000. Talked to the person next to me, and my friend from Hawaii, and I said, did I miss that? Did she say Microsoft? And did she say branded content? And did she say $250,000? Yep. So I talked to Amber afterwards. That's what I wanted to hear, ladies and gentlemen. Branded content, $250,000 from a company like Microsoft. They wanted to get a story out. Branded content is storytelling. Okay? There's ability of getting a lot of money. It's whatever you think you can get for a double. I'm fortunate I get to work a lot. I'm working with Facebook on the branded content project. It's fascinating. It's fascinating what can be done, because from my perspective, you marry church and state. I mean, I come from the advertising side of the business, like most of you do. We never talk to the editorial side. We think they're from the dark side of the world. But when you put the two heads of state together, church and state, it's amazing what happens. And that is the way you position branded content. We have the creative editorial folks, we have the creative advertising folks, and we will develop a story to tell your business, either it's about your business or a business that you want to talk about that you will actually sponsor. Okay? But more importantly than that, for our topic today, besides the fact you can probably tell I'm very passionate about it, the insurance companies spend money, Miccosukee Indians. Again, test number 9. Go to the Mega website. Patty said you can probably get information. See if you can get the recording of what Julia and the group did in Fort Worth at Mega, which seems like a lifetime ago. It will blow your mind. Which, as you can probably tell, I'm a little bit older. I'm an old guy, been around a while. That blew my mind. $250,000 from Microsoft. Powerful. Again, homework. Take a look at it, see how you can use it, apply it to your particular company. But more importantly, for this particular webinar, it addresses my major issue, right? We're thinking like the customer to get a message out, and we're thinking like the advertiser, we're telling a story. It's all about storytelling, and we marry the two most powerful portions of our business, the two most powerful segments, the two most powerful areas of our business, editorial and revenue. Put them together, beautiful things happen. So again, if you don't understand branded content, it's not advertorial, it's not native advertising, it's branded content. And you can tell everything that I talk about in my seminar is all about brand. Understand how it works, talk to your VP, find out how to go ahead and make it work for you, okay? A teaching moment. This is my teaching moment for this particular group because I believe in it, and there is a ton of money, big money. Okay, and I am just about wrapping up. Let's see. For those of you also that know me and have heard me speak, you know that I always end with a couple of challenges. So what I thought how to end was, I thought about the presentation that I gave at Mega. And when Dean Ridings asked me, he said, we really would like you to talk, Peter, about sales transformation. I said, okay, that's a pretty intense topic. And what I did was I talked to a whole different group of my clients to see where they were on the journey of getting better. And I went through 6 different processes of what's good. I'm going to cover 2 today and just refresh. If you were there, I apologize. If you were not there, it's new information. There are 2 of the areas that companies that are doing well in the way to transformation are doing today. And again, my challenge to you is that if you're senior executive on this webinar, ask yourself, where are you on these 2 topics? And what do you do to make it better? And I will also give you some advice. This is the perfect time to accelerate these 2 topics. Topic number 1, the companies that are well on the way to sales transformation have an agency mindset. They think like an agency. One-stop shopping, bundles, research. Research. You've all sat on a webinar from Gordon Burrell. Gordon Burrell gives you lots of data, okay? Use the data. Use the data from John Marling. Customers want to hear data. Agencies, when you go to, they give you more than you can handle. We have access to the same data that they do. Okay? Number 2, agency mindset. Agencies are great at grand openings. Agencies are great at restaging. We can do that. This is the time for you to assume control as an agency with the same mindset. And let me tell you why I always say mindset, because to be honest about it, the agencies charge probably 20, 30% more than we charge. We give more value, especially with something like branded content. Given all the power we have the ability of charging 30% more. So my goal, and I told the guys in Fort Worth this, the reason I put that first on my list is believing on the value of the product you have. When you believe in the value, and I had a conversation with somebody in Philadelphia 2 days ago, 3 days ago, talking about the value of the product. They did their version, the number was 30 grand. I said, you're crazy. The number is 60. We can't do that, Peter. Yeah, you can. If you went to an agency, what would the price be? You said the price would be 60. Conversation over. This is the time to get more belief in what we can do. And more importantly, the businesses out there want you to be like an agency, thinking like them, giving them data, getting them better. Number two, and the last one on my challenge, investment. The point that I made in Fort Worth is the companies that are well on their way to sales transformation, they invest in systems. Yeah, we know that CRM. They invest in all that. But most importantly, they invest in their people. We have a saying in my business, you cannot educate others if you are uneducated. Let me say that slowly. You cannot educate others if you are uneducated. You cannot educate that small mom and pop that doesn't know diddly about branding, doesn't know how to brand, doesn't know how to remessage, doesn't know how to restage. You have to educate yourself so you can educate them. Even that dentist doesn't know really how to brand better. That is our job to teach them and our job to get better. There are so many webinars, and I've done a few. I listen to at least one a day. Patty just said to you, you have access to all ones. Go listen to more webinars and get yourself better. Because when you can go to your customer and say, I've learned something, they listen to you. Other thing about investment. If you watch a little bit of news and you watch a little bit of ESPN and you watch a little bit of Michael Jordan's story, you're probably impressed as I am about the intensity of the way he worked out and his competitiveness. You always knew that. A lot of you know I play professional tennis, believe in pro athletes, right? But look at what's happened. Have you seen LeBron James's workout now, since it's been locked down? Have you seen Serena Williams' workout? Have you seen Venus Williams' workout? Have you seen what the athletes, they are getting better. I challenge to you. What are you doing? What are you doing to get better? I said this, but I said this in Dallas. I'm going to wrap up with two more points. Okay. You know, in Fort Worth, did I lose you? Hello? Patty, am I still there?
Yep, you're still here.
Okay,
Peter, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you. All right. Okay. I wrapped up Fort Worth with two different points. Point number one, think about the 3 A's. Okay, this is what we talked about. A number way stands for audience. Are you doing that? A number 2 stands for the advertiser. Are you thinking like a customer? And the A number 3 stands for the ability to execute. Think about what I said about getting out of jail free. That's your test number 10, I think I've lost track. How do you stack up with the 3 A's today? Do you think about the advertiser? Do you think like the audience? TLR, TLC? And what is your grade of yourself to actually execute? Last challenge. It is 2:44 on the East Coast. So I'll talk to the people that are on the East Coast right now for a second. You have 3 hours left, but most of you are working from home. I challenge you. Identify 2 people you want to talk to today. 4 people you want to talk to tomorrow. This is what I want you to say to them. You know, I sat in a really interesting webinar yesterday. Guy talked way too fast. Black guy with a really, really funny accent. But he said a couple of really, really interesting things. And I thought of you and what you want to do going forward. Sat in a webinar. Guy talked way too fast. Black guy with a funny accent. Every little joke when you laughed at. But he said a couple of things that really intrigued me. And I thought you'd want to hear them. And walk them through whatever you heard from what I talked about today that you think made sense. Twice today, 4 times tomorrow. Let me tell you what happens. When you pay your customer that kind of a compliment that you thought of them on a webinar, again, my job at the beginning, I said 43 minutes ago, we have to make your reps memorable. Calling them, tell them that you heard the webinar and thought of them and what was said and had some advice for them. It's a beautiful thing. Last point. Famous quote that I try to use sometimes. Fortunately, we have no sports. I'm going to use it anyway. Who said, ask not what your teammates can do for you, but what you can do for your teammates? Magic Johnson. I want you to think about that. This is the time when you ask yourself every day, you look at your client list, you look at the people on your team, and you ask yourself, what can I do to make it better? What can I do to make it better? How do I get back to my customers? You know, the methodology today I gave you is very simple. Always think like the customer, put them first, think by the customer, move backwards. Think about the reader, and then let's put in place some verbiage that your reps can use to go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's getting more. Customers, I just saw a little blurb, more businesses open up in Palm Beach County. They need to know what to do. They need to know what to say to their reader, our readers, why it's safe to go to the restaurant, why it's safe to go there and go plane, why it's safe to go on transit if you're in Baltimore. They need to communicate that our job is to teach them how to go ahead and get that done. It is 2:45. I have a few minutes left for some questions. Patty, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, we do have some questions. First thing, though, is a statement. I want to let all of you know that there wasn't an accompanying PowerPoint, so you weren't missing any slides. It was Peter talking, and we do have Mark Fitzgerald on the call from America's Newspapers that's transcribing. So he'll be putting together the takeaways with all Peter's important points. So you will have a written document of sorts, but I don't want you to think that you were missing anything. You weren't. And I apologize for the technical fumbling at the very beginning. Peter and I tried to do something too complicated, and it didn't exactly work. So in showing his slide while he was talking. So sorry about all that, but I think we've captured everything. The first question I have, Peter, is should papers be offering reduced pricing as we approach businesses as they open up?
Great question. You know, there are two trains of thought on that, right? There's the one train of thought that we offer so much value we shouldn't, but I will tell you, when you think like the customer, the answer is yes, okay, number one. And there are a whole variety of ways of doing that, but I openly and honestly believe that it'll be almost impossible to go to a customer, given the business how much business they've lost, and charge them. However, what I do believe is that we can add value by adding other areas more. I mean, let's say more circulation, not more line, some more. But I would definitely find a way. I mean, I heard a great webinar a few days ago from Mike Beatty from Adams in Florida. You know, if you didn't hear that, it's open. It's ENP does some great webinars as well, and you know, Mike Blind is a big believer in branding and telling our brand. Listen to that; they do some fascinating things with rates and had great success. So a long answer to a short question. I believe that in the short term, the answer is yes. Until they can get some cash flow and get their business back sort of on track. But I would also say you can give them discounted rates, but only for a limited time. Set a time frame. Like I always say, if you fly a lot like I do, there's always, you know, if you fly an airline, you can get this rate up to such and such a day. I would definitely offer to reduce rates to a certain point only.
Thank you. I did have several questions on rates, and the question that popped up right after that one was, what can you do for accounts that have no money or their advertising budget is frozen? So I think you kind of answered that.
It's a tough one. You know, if they have no money, and there are a lot of the customers that do that, then it's a case of, again, I don't know if I had a rep or an executive ask the question, you have to look at your financials. I mean, the right thing to do if they have no money is find a program like I just mentioned, business is helping business. Find somebody in your community that has a ton of money, you know, and say we have a whole slew of businesses that cannot advertise right now because their business has been shut down. We need help. Could you possibly sponsor them and sponsor a page, sponsor something where we make you the person branding, helping other businesses. That has worked like a charm. And usually, again, if you go to my point a few minutes ago, they are in every market, everywhere in the world that I've been talking, there are always certain categories where they still flush with cash and are only too happy to help businesses that are struggling.
Mm-hmm. What about offering discounts for recruitment ads for businesses that have not been affected by COVID-19?
I think that goes completely back to what I said earlier about all those job seekers. Absolutely, yes. I mean, there's an argument that could be made that, you know, you could just give anything to do with recruitment, give it away for free. Just give it for free, knowing full well that it'll come back to you because you are helping, and then that becomes part of your branding. What have you done, Mr. Publisher in Des Moines, Iowa, to contribute? Well, guess what? We get free recruitment ads. We give discounted rates. We did a food drive. One of my clients did a food drive and went to all the big places in town, and they all gave money. She said to me, Peter, was the most amazing thing. They wouldn't talk to us about advertising, but when they knew we were organizing a food drive, they went, okay, how much? How much do you really want to go? How can you do a food drive in your market? Go to the bigger players in town, get them to give a couple of grand, whatever the number is, or just donate food. Figure out how you're going to pick it up. It is a great testimonial, a great story, great branding. Good question on job seekers. And again, and the other thing that, I mean, I'm totally off topic, Pat, but what I've been seeing a lot of is that, I know in South Africa, where I'm from, they have 100,000 contact tracers that are doing contact tracing. I keep looking for ads that say the state of Florida needs contact tracers. The state of this, I've not seen it. I don't have an answer. I don't know where they're going to get that. I heard Michael Bloomberg's going to spend a lot of money and get that in New York. I do not know where the healthcare system is going to get that many contact tracers from. But if I were you on the call, somebody on the call, I would go figure it out. If you have somebody who's a doctor or in and say, hey, where are you going to get them from? Because guess what? If they're going to hire 100,000 people in the state of Illinois, the state of New York, or the state of California, I want to be there if I'm your paper, helping them with that. They're going to have to find them somewhere. Don't know where. Why not use us?
How many prospects do you think a rep should be calling on each week?
That sounds like one of my clients asking that question.
It is. It is one of your clients.
Of course it is. I know exactly who it is too. Let me backtrack. If you make the assumption that most of your reps are, let's make that assumption for now. It's one way of answering it. The rule of thumb for your best call center, telemarketing, inside sales reps around the world is you make 100 to 120 calls a day, right? That's the rule of thumb if you're an inside sales rep. Now, most of the people that the question got asked about are probably outside reps that are working from home. The number I use to this day, the number I use is 30. I told the one particular person asking this question, the number's 30. And they go, you can't make 30 calls in a day. Yes, you can. Because if you, again, stop listening to your rep. Think about when you were a rep. What do you do on 30 calls? 15 of the calls aren't going to talk to you. Number's not going to be there. It's going to be boom. So boom, you got 30 minutes out of the way. A few of them are going to humor you. You're probably going to end up of the 30 calls, 3 or 4 or 5 of them will actually talk to you the way I described. But to get to the 3 or 4 or 5, you got to start with 30. If you only make 10, you're not going to get 3 or 5. You get none. So that's my number that I still use. 30 a day, especially when you're at home. Because I know that you've got to send emails out, and you got to do this, and you got to do that. But if you listen to the verbiage I just gave you, especially now, when businesses are opening, they need help. They need to know what to do, and they have no idea what the message is they have to give and how to present it. That's our job. Our job is to go ahead and tell them what to do. I'll get that person for that question, by the way, Patty.
Can you really draw branded content if you don't have big page views like the Seattle Times?
Yes. It's a great question. My perspective on where you would use branded content is a combination of an advertising vehicle, whether it be some print, some print, which is pure advertising, some online, and then the most important one to me is the editorial part of the story. So the answer is yes. Okay, brand. It doesn't matter how big or how little. It's the whole package of telling the story, and that's what we're selling. We are selling the story of what you've done. That's why in the questions I gave, it's what have you done, Mr. Customer, to make a difference in the past 2-3 months? What have you done to contribute? And the reason I asked that particular question is if I'm going to do a branded content piece that talks about an editorial of some version, that's what I want to put in there. Hence, I asked the question. So that's a great question. Again, it's all a question of relative. If you have minimal traffic, it's one thing, but if you have a little bit, you can still get away with it. Personal opinion.
Is there a trend of relaxing payment terms for account balances for current advertising charges?
Yes, there is. I think it's really, really hard, man, and I live this with some of my customers. It's really, really hard to call and say when there's no business, then why don't you pay me? firstly, it's hard for the rep to make the call. Secondly, it's completely insensitive, but I do think the call needs to be made and at least work out some plan as to when it can be paid, at least have a conversation. And again, the plan is like we talked about discounts. Make sure there is a definite drop dead date at the end when everything goes back to some sense of normality. But it is really, really, really hard. And certain types of, when you have electricity companies and, all saying, we'll forgive this, to go and say you pay, but don't say pay right away, but let's get some kind of a plan going, for the next, let's say for the end of June, which is what I've been suggesting. Let's do it through the end of June, knowing full well that at the end of June, things may be back to some sense of normality. And then we can go ahead and talk about the next. But by the same token, I also want to make sure that in this conversation, we also want to have some kind of a conversation about what else we can do to help you generate more revenue now. So it's both best of both worlds. I'll allow it, but.
Do you feel that reps need to be at full hours, or how do you feel about furloughing reps?
Sure, it's a tough one. It's it depends a lot. I can answer that both ways. Furloughing reps is really, really tough. Again, it depends what your situation is and how much of your customer base have lost. My preference is, given what we're going to need to get done to help customers in general in most markets, is that we don't furlough, but we actually go ahead and keep full hours. Knowing full well that even if they're at home, if you think about the passion project conversation we had and the research and the webinars, and this is the time that in 2 or 3 of the publishers I work with, we insist that the reps attend the webinars. I know one of my clients insisted his reps on this webinar, because this is the way you learn. You go on a webinar, you listen to some ideas, you get the team together again on Zoom later and talk about what you heard, how to get better. So, let me think if I have a different answer for that, Patty, but I would say my preference would probably be to go ahead and keep him in full hours.
Okay, I have one of your customers that wants me to make you chuckle by telling you that please add Guam to your state pull down.
Consider it done.
He said he
it's
would
only 6 o'clock in the morning.
And you did.
And I am laughing. My friends in Guam have done a great job of quite a few. The food drive came from them, just so you know. They did a great job of that. And I always say, if you can do it in Guam, which is all the way out there, and they're very small, you can do it there, you can do it anywhere, right? They did a great job of their terminology. Manji's terminology was frontline leaders. It's a beautiful terminology from somebody that's obviously editorial type. We would never think of that on the advertising side, but a dedication to the frontline leaders and what restaurants are open and how they're delivering to them. There's so many ways of tying it in and doing more. And that's the point, doing more. So thank you for that, Patty.
No worries. So while we're wrapping up, if anybody has any last questions they want to ask, please go ahead and put them in. First off, thank you very much, Peter. That was lots of great information, and hopefully Mark Fitzgerald got all of that from the guy talking really fast. So you talk fast.
You can always call me. I can always do it.
But you repeat that, which is also good. So folks, we'll send out a email. You'll get an email that when the takeaways are done and when the recording is available. Peter did touch on, getting as much help for yourself as possible and, getting research and getting all that. And I know many of you have been on our webinars, but I do want to reiterate that the 14 webinars that we have done over the last 2 months are available on the America's Newspapers website. Every webinar we've done, with every takeaway, with every PowerPoint, with any of the additional documents, is on our website, newspapers.org. It's all free. Anybody can utilize it, and we certainly hope you do. And again, newspapers.org, just go there. You want to go to archived webinars. If anybody has any trouble doing that, just give me a call, shoot me an email. So that will be going out to you. So again, Peter, I want to thank you so much. I just had a comment here that says this has just been one of the best seminars ever hosted. Thank you, Peter. She said Peter doesn't
Thank
need
you very much.
slides.
And for anybody on the webinar, you know, I'm easy to get a hold of. If they think of some questions tomorrow, you can just email Patty, or she has my email. And I will check up on a few of you and see how you graded yourself on some of those 10 questions. So yeah. Have a great afternoon.
I just got 2 more people that are sending in. There's tons of them. Great, excellent, amazing, very good. So thank you, Peter, on behalf of America's Newspapers. I really appreciate your time and your efforts. And folks, best of luck to all of you. Please stay safe. Please help your customers. Please help newspapers. We're a newspaper family. My husband is an editorial page editor, so we're all in. So good luck. Work hard out there, and thank you so much for participating. We've got more webinars coming up in the next few weeks, hoping to get everyone to transition to full economy. So thank you again. Thank you, Peter. It's been great.
Thank you, Patty. Good afternoon, everybody. Be safe.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.